Good morning, Little Masters, and welcome to today's Tolkien Times. I'm the Man of the West, also from the Prancing Pony podcast. Now, we have been enjoying Tolkien's storytelling in the form of poetry from the Lay of Leithian for quite some time now, and we've still got a wonderfully long way to go. Now, last week we finished Canto 5 as Thingol almost killed Beren where he stood, but instead issued him a challenge that he is meant to fail. Also, no one listened to Melian. What else is new? Today, we start Canto 6 with a somber Luthien, a jealous Daeron, and a treehouse. So days drew on from that mournful day. The curse of silence no more lay on Doriath, though Daeron's flute and Luthien's singing both were mute. The murmurs soft awake once more about the woods, the waters roar past the great gates of Thingol's halls. But no dancing step of Luthien falls on turf or leaf, for she, forlorn, where stumbled once, where bruised and torn, with longing on him like a dream, had Beren sat by the shrouded stream. Escalduin the dark and strong, she sat and mourned in a low song. Endless roll the waters past, to this my love hath come at last, enchanted waters pitiless, a heartache and a loneliness. The summer turns, in branches tall she hears the pattering raindrops fall. The windy tide in leafy seas, the creaking of the countless trees, and longs unceasing and in vain to hear one calling once again the tender name that nightingales were called of old. Echo fails. Tinuviel, Tinuviel. The memory is like a knell, a faint and far-off tolling bell. Tinuviel, Tinuviel. O Mother Melian, tell to me some part of what thy dark eyes see. Tell of thy vision where his feet are wandering, what foes him meet. O Mother, tell me, lives he still, treading the desert and the hill? Do sun and moon above him shine? Do the rains fall on him, Mother mine? Nay, Luthien, my child, I fear, he lives indeed in bondage drear. The Lord of Wolves hath prisons dark, chains and enchantments cruel and stark. There, trapped and bound and languishing, now Beren dreams that thou dost sing. Then I alone must go to him, and dare the dread in dungeons dim. For none there be that will him aid in all the world, save elven maid, whose only skill were joy and song, and both have failed and left her long. Then naught said Melian thereto, though wild the words. She wept anew, and ran through the woods like hunted deer, with her hair streaming and eyes of fear. Daeron she found with ferny crown, silently sitting on beech leaves brown. On the earth she cast her at his side. "O Daeron, Daeron, my tears," she cried. "Now pity for our old days' sake. Make me a music for heart's ache, for heart's despair and for heart's dread, for light gone dark and laughter dead." "But for music dead there is no note," Daeron answered, and at his throat his fingers clutched. Yet the pipe he took, and sadly trembling the music shook. And all things stayed while that piping went, wailing in the hollows, and there intent they listened, their business and their mirth, their heart's gladness in the light of earth forgotten, and bird voices failed, while Daeron's flute in Doriath wailed. Luthien wept not for very pain, and when he ceased she spoke again. "My friend, I have a need of friends, as he who a long dark journey wends, and fears the road, yet dares not turn and look back where the candles burn in windows he has left. The night in front he doubts to find the light that far beyond the hills he seeks." And thus of Melian's words she speaks, and of her doom and her desire to climb the mountains and the fire and ruin of the northern realm, to dare a maiden without helm or sword or strength of hardy limb, where enchantments found her and grow dim. His aid she sought to guide her forth and find the pathways to the north, if he would not for love of her go by her side a wanderer. "Wherefore," said he, "should Daeron go into direst peril earth doth know, for the sake of mortal who did steal his laughter and joy? No love I feel for Beren, son of Barahir, not weep for him in dungeons drear, who in this wood have chains enow, heavy and dark, but thee, I vow, I will defend from perils fell, and deadly wandering into hell." No more they spake that day, and she perceived not his meaning. Sorrowfully she thanked him, and she left him there, A tree she climbed till the bright air above the woods her dark hair blew, and straining afar her eyes could view the outline gray and faint and low of dizzy towers where the clouds go, the southern faces mounting sheer, in rocky pinnacle and pier of stony mountains, pale and cold, and wide the lands before them rolled. But straightway Dairon sought the king, and told him his daughter's pondering, and how her madness might her lead to ruin, unless the king gave heed. Thingol was wroth, and yet amazed. In wonder and half fear he gazed on Dairon, and said, "True hast thou been. Now ever shall love be us between. While Doriath lasts in this realm, thou art a prince of beech and elm." He sent for Leithian, and said, "O maiden fair, what hath thee led to ponder madness and despair, to wander to ruin, and to fare from Doriath against my will, stealing like a wild thing men would kill into the emptiness outside?" "The wisdom, father," she replied, nor would she promise to forget, nor would she vow for love or threat her folly to forsake, and meek in Doriath her father's will to seek. This only vowed she, if go she must, that none but herself would she now trust. No folk of her father's would persuade to break his will or lend her aid. If go she must, she would go alone, and friendless dare the walls of stone. In angry love, and half in fear, Thingol took counsel his most dear to guard and keep. He would not bind in caverns deep, and intertwined sweet Leithian, his lovely maid, who robbed of air must wane and fade, who ever must look upon the sky, and see the sun and moon go by. But close unto his mounded seat and grassy throne there ran the feet of Hirelorn, the beechen queen. Upon her triple bulls were seen no brake or branch, until aloft, in a green glimmer, distant, soft, the mightiest vault of leaf and bough, from world's beginning until now, was flung above Escaldwin's shores, and the long slopes to Thingol's doors. Grey was the rind of pillars tall and silken smooth, and far and small to squirrel's eyes were those who went at her grey feet upon the bent. Now Thingol made men in the beech, in that great tree as far as reach, their longest ladders there to build an airy house, and as he willed, a little dwelling of fair wood was made, and veiled in leaves it stood above the first branches. Corners 3 it had, and windows faint to see, and by 3 shafts of Hirelorn in the corners standing was upborne. There Leithian was bidden dwell, until she was wiser, and the spell of madness left her. Up she clomb the long ladders to her new home, among the leaves, among the birds. She sang no song, she spoke no words. Faint glimmering in the tree she rose, and her little door they heard her close. The ladders were taken, and no more her feet might tread Escaldwin's shore. Thither at whiles they climbed and brought all things she needed or besought. But death was his whoso should dare a ladder leave, or creeping there should set one by the tree at night. A guard was held from dusk to light about the grey feet of Hirelorn, and Leithian in prison and forlorn. There Dairon grieving often stood in sorrow for the captive of the wood, and melodies made upon his flute, leaning against a grey tree root. Leithian would from her windows stare, and see him far under piping there, and she forgave his betraying word for the music and the grief she heard, and only Dairon would she let across her threshold foot to set. When I read the lines that we got to early on with Leithian by the river Escaldwin lamenting, "Endless roll the waters past, to this my love hath come at last, enchanted waters pitiless, a heartache and a loneliness," I'm reminded that Tolkien certainly understood firsthand the emotions that accompany the separation of lovers. Now, whether we think about he and Edith before the enforced non-communication period, before his 21st birthday, so we're talking when he was 19, 20 years old, or whether we're talking about the time after they were wed and he was off to the fight in World War I, he knew that heartache and loneliness in a very real way. And yes, as a reminder, he and Edith were married on March 22nd, 1916. He received his orders on June 2nd and was shipped to France on June 4th to be at the front in time for the Battle of the Somme, which started July 1st. But getting back to the lovers in this story, Leithian is forlorn, missing Baron greatly. But when she goes to her mother hoping for good news, she learns the worst. Okay, the second worst. I guess he could have already been dead. He's in the dungeons of Sauron. And thus she begins to plan. She's going to rescue him. Now she seeks Dairon's help, and it would seem she really genuinely doesn't know why he's heard about it. But he betrays her to the king, and the rest is history. Or his tree. Oh man, I think I regret that one. That is it for today's First Stage Friday. But come back next time as Leithian develops a plan and pulls a Rapunzel. I'll be getting back to Fandom Friday's next series, at least that's the plan, as long as people will join me. So if you'd like to join me on the show, or you know somebody who does, please email barnabin@theprancingponypodcast.com and let us know. Please visit patreon.com/TolkienTimes to learn how you can support the show, get an ad-free RSS feed, monthly hangout with me, bonus episodes each week, and more. And join me again tomorrow on today's Tolkien Times as we wrap up this week with Second Age Saturday. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Please follow or subscribe in your podcast apps and follow @Tolkien Times on social media. Finally, as Faramir says, go with the goodwill of all good men.